Good morning. This is Kelly Hobart from Alpaca Direct. I hope all of you out there had a great Thanksgiving and were able to spend time with your families. I really enjoyed our Thanksgiving. We had it at our house this year, and it was great fun having all of our family. And it's so awesome to be able to spend time with them.
Granddaughters.
Yes, Jim said, and our granddaughter Evie, and so her and Brandon, my son, were not feeling too well, but luckily their fever broke and they were able to come and share in Thanksgiving with us. So that was awesome. So this week I was thinking that I would just take a moment and take a look at the magic loop method. And for those of you who have never seen the magic loop method, it is a way of knitting that looks like this. And when you're halfway through, you'll have a loop on one side and a loop on another. Now notice my cord is really wide. It's a 47-inch cord. And the reason why I like 47-inch cords is when these socks grow up and they get wider, then I don't have to worry about losing my loops. And there's another thing about this lovely, these needles that I'm using, which make the magic loop wonderful. And these are the red lace by Chowgu. And they have no memory in the cord. Do you see how the cord is nice and straight, even though I store them curled and round in a circle? There's no memory in it, so you're not fighting that twisted strand of cord that's trying to go around and around in a circle. And if you've ever had to endure that before, it is sort of frustrating. So being able to choose the chords without memory is fantastic. What were you going to say,
I would
Jim?
say there's lots of people coming online. So
Good morning, everyone. I
Michigan,
hope you all had a great
Europe.
Thanksgiving and that you're all staying nice and warm. We're in for a whole week of snow here. And I think we just finished up yesterday. I did the snow blowing last night. And I don't know, there was a good 3 or 4 inches on the ground. It was pretty thick. But it's nice because we just put on our alpaca socks or our merino wool socks, and we are good to
Tell
go.
what you're wearing for your socks today.
Yes, I'm wearing a pair of socks that I knit, and I was telling Jim how wonderfully they fit. It's so awesome to be able to make your own socks because you can make them the exact size of your foot, and they feel so good. So I'm really excited to be able to wear those. Matter of fact, this is what I'm starting is another pair of socks. And I was thinking that this time I'm going to use fingering weight yarn. And this is from the Dye For Me collection. And this is the Cashmerino blend from Plymouth Yarn Company. And we do sell that on our website when it's in stock. I don't know if it's in stock at the moment, but it is a fantastic yarn. And so I am looking forward to having a pair of socks out of those.
So Marie is from Buffalo, and she said in Buffalo they got a ton of snow.
Oh no! Oh,
So
Marie, I'm feeling your pain. Yes,
So
just
Buffalo.
be very careful. Bring out those yak tracks and get those on your feet so that when you're walking with the dogs, like I do all the time, you don't end up falling and getting hurt. I remember one time I was over at Macy's shopping and I got out of my car, and I don't usually wear yak tracks when I'm going into a store because I feel like that's not very kind. And anyway, I went flying on my back, and I'm sure I chipped a bone in my elbow. But of course, being me, I never went to the doctor. But I do have a funny little shape on my elbow from that event, and my elbow was swollen up for quite some time. But anyway, it works just fine now.
So that's that was
Yes.
Buffalo's getting a lot of snow in
Oh,
Chicago.
oh my gosh. Yeah, I bet there is a lot of snow in Chicago.
In Buffalo too.
In Buffalo, New York. Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, I will keep my fingers crossed that you're all warm and healthy and that you have all enjoyed the Thanksgiving holiday like I did. I have to say, this year our turkey was great, wasn't it, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
We did a turkey where I put it in brine the minute I got home from Mom and Dad's in California. And I put it in that brine for a couple days. And then there was another recipe that I followed where it made a rub for the outside of the turkey. And then I put apples and all different, root beer, 2 bottles of root beer on the inside, only because it called for Coke, but that Coke had a bunch of sugar in it. So anyway, I thought that root beer would be healthier. It turned out delicious. We cooked it on our Traeger. It was fantastic. Best turkey ever. Yes. And then we made a wonderful soup, chicken noodle soup. And we are following the keto diet right now. And so instead of putting noodles in my chicken noodle soup, I put the spaghetti squash. And boy, was that a great idea. It was the best soup ever, wasn't it, Jim? We did not miss the noodles. The spaghetti squash was delicious. And let's put it this way, we ate that soup very quickly. And it was really good. So every week we have a drawing, and for this last week we had some vintage chunky, and the choices were the green or blue. And if you haven't tried vintage chunky, it's a blend of acrylic and wool, and it is a workhorse yarn. It's machine washable, great yarn by Barocco Yarn Company. Love this yarn. Used it a lot of times. But for this week, I was thinking that we could use the Millie Calori Baby in either neon or jewel tones. And so this hand is jewel tones, and this is neons. And so you guys choose, and we can get that out in the mail to you for next week.
So
and if you haven't used Millie Calori Baby, this is a 100% superwash fine merino, and it is a fantastic yarn. I really, really like it. And in order to be entered for the contest every week, all you need to do is post comments in the comment section. You let us know what you're working on. Maybe you have a fantastic pattern that you can share with us, and the name of the pattern so that we can look it up. Maybe we will make it, and I can use it for a future Technique Tuesday. But back to this yarn. This is beautiful. Jewel right here. And then the neon. Yes, this is fantastic yarn. It's great yarn for that zigzag scarf. I've used it to make that and many other things, but it is great yarn. Not itchy at all next to your skin, so you can put it right up to your skin and it feels great. Every week when we offer whatever we offer for the prize, you get a 10% discount off of it. And the discount code for this week is TT129 for 10% off the Millie Calori Baby for today only. So if you're watching and you like the Millie Calori, we have some nice colors, a nice color selection right now, and you can get a discount. Yes.
Meg will post a link.
Who doesn't love a nice discount? Especially when we have all these gifts to buy and we just need a little bit of yarn.
So read it one more time.
Yep. So for the special pricing for today only for the Millie Calori is TT129. Okay. And then to get entered for the prize, you just post comments in the comment section. And you can post any comment that you like. The more interesting, the easier it is for us to find you. I will tell you that. So I wanted to take a look at this lovely, great little tips that I use for the magic loop method. And I know there are a lot of people out there that really have a hard time, especially in the beginning, wrapping their head around how to do the magic loop method. So I'm going to take a look at that with you. So first of all, I'm using recycled yarn. Do you see this yarn where it's been knit before and it's tightly, it has memory from the stitches that it had on it? Let me tell you a quick and easy way to get rid of this. And as soon as I get home today, I will be doing that. I will take this whole cake of yarn that has the recycled yarn in the front, and I will put some warm water in the sink in one of our spare bathrooms, and I will submerge that into the water.
The whole skein, just like that?
Yes, the whole cake right into the water and get it totally wet. Then what I do is once it kind of stays into the water because it's wet and heavier by that time, I just leave it there. Okay.
Throw it in the dryer?
No, I don't. No, I do not. I do not advise throwing this in the dryer. That would make a huge mess. Then you would have to throw it in the garbage can. If you want to use it again, you don't throw it in the dryer. But what you do is you leave it in there and just let it settle for a little bit, kind of like if you're soaking a scarf after you knit it, right? So then when the water has drained, my drain slowly drains out and the water's all gone. So then what you can do is you can just go squeeze and squeeze it. And you squeeze out the water. And then what I do right after that You could even take a towel and wrap around it and soak up a little bit more of the water. But right in our bathroom, we have a heater vent right on the floor in the spare bedroom, and no one goes in there. So I just take this, I'll take the cake of yarn and stick it over the heater vent. Very next morning, this whole thing is dry. There's no wrinkles in your yarn, and it's ready to be used. Is that cool? And I can do that. I can do that while it's still attached to my work. I don't have to tear out my work and start over. Okay? And even if you were to get these needles wet, I have done that a lot of times when I'm doing like blocking before I'm doing a project. It does not damage the needles.
Just not wood needles.
Doesn't damage wood needles either. If you set the wood needles in water and left them in the water for days, it might damage them. But no, for doing this, it doesn't damage them. So now I wanted to take a look at the magic loop method, and I drew this little drawing for you so you can understand. So these straight lines right here, these right here are the needles, right? Just like that. Okay. So when I start knitting, I'm looking for my working yarn. I know that my working yarn is on that back needle. So I need to knit the stitch to the left of it, which is this one right here. See, if I'm looking at it, that one's been knit. So now I'm going to knit this one. So if you put your work down and you're not familiar with the magic loop method, you'll go, uh-oh, where do I knit and what do I do? Well, just look for your working yarn. It will tell you what to knit next, okay? And then when you're knitting, you'll knit the front of sock number 1, the front of sock number 2, the back of sock number 2, and the back of sock number 1. That's all there is to it to do the magic loop method. A couple of things that sometimes people, when they're switching from knitting this side to knitting this side, they can get ladders because they make it kind of loose. So on my sock, I'm going to be doing increases. I'm doing garter stitch, which is increase around and then purl around. So all I'm doing is a knit front and back. See how that's kind of far away? Just tug it up and let that needle fall to the back cord. That way, you don't want to yank on it and make it too tight, because what you'll do is make a pucker in your sock where the strand that is between this stitch and this stitch is too tight. You do not want a pucker. You just want to have it snug enough so that you don't have a ladder in between those two, in between the front and the back of the sock. So now I'm just going to knit along until I get to my other sock, other end of the sock. And I just am going to knit. This will make a traditional garter stitch toe. And all I'm doing is purling around and then increasing around. So to the last 2 stitches, and then I knit front and back and knit 1. So see how I've knit the front of that sock? Then I will go right over here. And this is why they call it, sorry, my yarn's getting tangled up already. That's another thing. When you carry your yarns with you in the car or what have you, sometimes they get tangled up. And managing your yarns as you're going around is always a challenge, especially when it's been moved. Okay, I think I can just do it like that and just forget about it for a second. So here I am. Do you see how there's a loop on this side and a loop on this side? And mind you, you can use this 2 at a time technique, whether if you're doing Christmas hats and they're going to be the same hat and you're doing it for family members, you can use this technique and actually knit 2 hats at one time. And you'd be surprised how much time that will save for you in your Christmas knitting for people. So if you want each person to have the same hat, just doing the hat twice on these larger cords, it works out beautifully. You will notice that as I'm right here is the beginning of sock number 1. You always want to place either a stitch marker up here which you have to deal with, or you can just put it down here. And that way you won't accidentally knit too much, go past and miss your beginning of the round. That would be bad. You don't want to do that, especially if you're doing increases and then you missed where the increases are supposed to be. So here I am back to one loop. It's a long loop. But again, what I also love about the longer cords is when I'm knitting sweaters, I can use the same exact needle. See how I'm letting it fall to the back? Not pulling it too tight, but just letting that stitch fall to the back to prevent the ladder. Okay, and then I'm just going to work over. So I did the front of sock number 1, the front of sock number 2, and right now I'm doing the back of sock number 2. And then I'm going to finish up by doing the back of sock number 1. And also, if you're not familiar with the magic loop method, thinking of you're always knitting on the outside of your work. If you ever find yourself knitting on the inside of your sock, that is not good. So think of it as a sandwich that you always keep closed. You're not going to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and stick your hands in the middle of it. So don't do that with your knitting either.
Meg has a comment you can repeat.
Sure. What?
She said Kelley's trick is to keep a ball on each side of her, so it forces you to turn the project the right way each time.
Right.
So yep. Make sure to repeat that.
Megan said you can keep a ball on either side of you, so it forces you to turn your work in the correct direction every time. Managing your yarns as you're knitting is a very great idea. What you don't want to do is have your yarns tangled around and around and around and around until you can't even get more yarn to knit with. That creates a situation that's not very much fun at all. There is one trick that you can implement if you do get your yarns very, very twisted. And I'll show you the little trick. Okay, I have my last little increase here. And even counting your stitch count as you're going along, or making sure that there's that little purl bump there and there's a little purl bump here. So you're always checking to make sure that you added one stitch on each side. Say my yarns were all tangled up, right? Maybe let me tangle them up a little bit so I could show you what I'm talking about. Okay. Sorry, Jim, I'm going to tangle them up. Now I'm going to show them the trick. Okay, you can take your yarns if you want to untangle them, and you can go like this. Come on, baby.
Kind of heavy.
Yeah, it's moving. Do you see how it's unwinding? You can do that. If yours get twisted, that's a little trick that you can use to untangle your yarns. So we told you how to prevent ladders on the side. We told you that you're knitting both fronts and then both backs, and to always mark the beginning of the round. And then having a longer cord, for some people they think it's annoying, but it does prevent your work. If you have a cord that's too short, this can fall right off, and then you're always trying to recreate that halfway point. Do you see how that would be annoying? Yeah. Oh, and there's another thing. When you get ready to turn your work and you're ready to work in the other directions, always hang on to your whatever needle you're pulling or which one you don't. Because when I was just learning and I first did my socks, I gave it a good yank and it pulled my needle all the way off my socks. And back then, I didn't know how to get them back on the needles. I didn't know how to get my stitches back on the needles. And so I would have to start each set of my socks over again. Not a good plan, but luckily I always had a good attitude about it. And if you haven't heard me say this before, I don't mind using good yarn twice. And so it always worked out great for me. All right, so let's take a look and see who the winner was for this lovely vintage chunky. And it was the green colorway was the winning
It's like a blue-green.
Yeah, it's kind of a, oh, it's not a blue-green.
It's
It's a green. Sorry, honey.
A little colorblind.
Yeah, Jim's colorblind. Barb Seberg, congratulations. You have some lovely new yarn. And this is the Vintage Chunky by Barocco Yarn Company. And it is a wool acrylic blend that is machine washable. So all you have to do, Barb, is contact us at Alpaca Direct customer service. And we just need your shipping address and we can get it out in the mail to you so you can try this lovely yarn. I love it. It's great yarn. And then for those of you who didn't win, you can vote on the jewel tone or the neon colorway by Millie Calori Baby Superwash Fine Merino. Great yarn. And then maybe you get a chance to win some yarn for next week. So what I was thinking is this next week, I was thinking that since many of you out there wanted to know how to get your knitting back on track, say your work has fallen off the needles and you are not quite sure how to get your work back on the needles. I want to go over that, how easy it is to figure that out, and give you a good idea so that if you have that problem, you can fix it all by yourself. So I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you next Tuesday.